Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.
Here's to getting back together. To planned lunches and unplanned cookouts. To grandma's recipes and smells that take us back. To passing down plates and traditions. Here's to warm embraces and familiar faces. To your best friends, becoming best friends. To scheming, dreaming, and food still steaming. Here's to laughter and love. To growing closer than ever. For all of life's get-togethers. Chinette, here's to us.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Hump Day edition of The Yard. Hope things are well with you today. It's another day closer to college football. Chance to get back at Davis Wade Stadium. We got a big game coming in. We'll look at LSU today, kind of break some things down. Broke down the Ed Orgeron press conference yesterday. A lot of interesting things that he said there. But we'll look at the Tigers. A lot to talk about as always. Excited about the week. I really am. I don't know how I feel about the game just yet. Need another day or two. It's like the more that I look at LSU, it's like, you know how it is initially. You look at what's the helmet sticker. Yeah, it's LSU, and they've always kind of had our number, which is true. Because Ed Orgeron, number one, is an elite recruiter, and Les Miles was as well. I mean, you talk to Tiger people, they say, well, Les did this, Les did that. I mean, listen, Les had LSU competing for the SEC West regularly. I mean, some of the most highly rated games for TV numbers the last several years have been LSU and Alabama. And a lot of people used to pull for Alabama. Not everybody pulls against Alabama. I mean, nobody feels sorry for Nick Saban, I can promise you. But Ed Orgeron, even when he was at Ole Miss, did a great job, whether they cut corners or not, did a great job recruiting up there. And, when you're chasing players, too, that are also cutting corners, you still got to beat other teams that are cutting corners. But the reality of it is that Orgeron is one of the better recruiters in the country and has had that reputation for a long time, the better part of 20 years. So, yeah, LSU is going to have athletes. And we saw some of that last week. Dion Smith, former Mississippi State commitment Dion Smith, flipped from Mississippi State to LSU and had his kind of a breakout game last weekend. And watching that Orgeron's press conference, when you ask about some of those young receivers, he just kind of grins. Kind of like he got over on everybody. And it's one of those things, too, when you have the players, you usually win. It's just like I was watching Brandon Walker's show earlier. Brandon Walker is my friend. I know some of you don't really care for the language that he uses on air, and I get it. I'm from South Mississippi. My mama told me not to cuss in public, But anyway, Brandon makes a good point, too, is that you're talking about Shane Beamer's comment about the, 100 five-star players at Georgia. Sometimes the other guys are just better. Sometimes that's no matter what you do, no matter what you call, no matter what you scheme up, sometimes the other guys are just better at football. We always talk about the old expression, it's not always X's and O's, but Jimmy's and Joe's. There's some truth in that. You might be able to get somebody slipping every now and again, but you better have players. That's one thing Jackie Sherrill used to always say, too, is you got to have players. You got to have players. Because what happens, too, is, good players can overcome bad play calls. I remember when I played high school football, I had a guy named Chuck Lick that was our ninth grade football coach before I went to play for Coach Bowser for a year. But Lick used to always say late in the ball game, he goes, okay, we got to call a play that gets the ball in the hands of our playmaker. We need to give our guy a chance. And then we had a guy named Anthony Preston that we would always try to find a way to get him the football. And it didn't really matter what we called because half the time he wouldn't run it. And you just give it to him. He just kind of get out there and create on his own. I don't know what kind of college player he would have been. He was a guy that got wrapped up in a shooting that ended up going to prison. But Anthony was one of those guys we had a lot of faith in. We wanted the football, but at the end of the day, you'd always defer to him because you knew he was better. And other teams knew that he was better, so they would kind of, focus on him. And that's kind of how this situation is with us. I look at this situation with Tulu Griffin. Asked Mike Leach specifically about that, on Monday, because we did that review and we talked about it on the show a little bit. Tulu Griffin is one of Mississippi State's most explosive players, and that did not have a catch Saturday against Memphis. And so, those are things you look at and you begin to ask yourself, okay, why does this happen? This is a guy, obviously, that is still kind of coming into his own, so let's be fair about that. But he has shown that he is electric with the football in his hands. And so when you have an offense that is struggling a little bit, in the red zone especially, you got to find a way to get a guy the football that can make you a play. And that's kind of how I see this deal, with Tulu Griffin. Much like Anthony Preston, even though Anthony would dwarf Tulu Griffin, you got to find a way to get the ball in his hands. You got to find a way to kind of give him an opportunity to make a play for you. And so I asked Mike Leach specifically about that. Just kind of about, hey, what about Tulu Griffin? Didn't have a catch. And so Mike made a couple comments I want to share with you in case you haven't read or seen these. They're aware of this. It's one of the things, too, it kind of irritates me at times, like people kind of create their own reality. It's like you go ask a coach a question, and it's like, oh, well, Tulu Griffin's getting ignored. And so I go ask the question kind of on you guys' behalf. They asked him, number one, about kick returns. He had the big return, obviously, against Tulsa. Won the MVP of the Armed Forces Bowl game. And it proved that it wasn't a fluke. Goes out, has the big return of 70 yards against Louisiana Tech to kind of spark the comeback. And then he has, of course, the big return against NC State to kind of get that game rolling. He had one return for 19 yards against Memphis. And to their credit, and I talked about that on the show last week, so it shouldn't have been a real surprise. Memphis didn't have a kicker that could consistently get a touchback. And so what do? Well, you can't really kick it to them. So they did have one directional kick where they kind of pinned him to the far sideline. But more times than not, they just kind of squibbed it down the field. They were kind of content to let us have it at the 35 rather than have him get something in plus field position. And so I guess it was Theo DeRosa of the Columbus Dispatch that asked Mike about, what was different in returns. And Mike says, well, the biggest thing is block. We didn't block well. There's a return that's nearly identical to the one we brought back against NC State. The difference is we blocked against NC State. We didn't block against Memphis. And so there's probably some truth to that. But, we should go ahead and prepare for the fact there are going to be a lot of teams kicking away from Tulu Griffin. And when we get into SEC play, you're going to have a lot of kickers that can consistently put the ball in the end zone. That's not to say that Tulu won't bring it out, because he will. And sometimes the discretion's a better part of ours. Sometimes better to take it at the 25. But that guy's a real weapon for us. But we didn't really fully utilize him against Memphis. And I don't necessarily say that as a criticism, just kind of pointing out the fact that we all kind of saw it. I said, Coach, what does he need to do to be more involved in the offense? Here's Mike's comment. We need to get him more involved, and we've talked about that some. Right now, what he does best is kick return, but I do think he's a good receiver, really good on screens. We've got to get him more and more involved. He was kind of in and out of camp, and that's true. I think it was concussion protocol. He missed probably a week or so of camp. And so he's probably, maybe conditioning-wise, a little bit behind where he'd like to be, but certainly good enough to play. But that's a subject of nearly every meeting we have. Then sometimes he'll disappear on you, but he is kind of an intense guy on what he's able to do. We've got to get it all ironed out. He started about 9 games also. We need to get him rolling. And that's what you want to hear, right? But at the end of the day, too, and we're a big proponent here on the Boneyard of seeing the proof in the pudding. There's a lot of people that win the press conference but don't win the ball game, and that's what we want to do. I don't really concern myself too much, with things that are said and done in press conferences. I go there to get you guys some answers and ask the questions that I believe you guys are curious about. But, it's like, we can say we want to get him rolling. Well, let's get him rolling. And so I suspect that he'll be a bigger part of the game plan this weekend against LSU. And we need him to be because of the fact that Tulu Griffin is an SEC caliber athlete. He is the guy that can run with those LSU DBs. That's one of the things, too, I go back to. I kind of scratched my head a little bit, too, with this. And I touched on this a little bit on Monday's show. It's one of the things that I hear from people, and it's kind of consistent, and it's kind of an inconsistent school of thought. It's the air raid won't work in the SEC. And then the next breath we say, well, we got receivers running wide open. Well, which is it? Either the air raid's not going to work or it's working, and maybe we're just not delivering the football just yet. And again, we've got a young quarterback. I was reading some things earlier today about Steve Spurrier made some comments years ago about young quarterbacks. He said you just got to let them play, let them figure some things out. You got to coach them up, and that's what we're doing. You can't expect the guy to go out there, basically hadn't played a full year of college football, expect him to light things up. And listen, Will Rogers is going to set a lot of records here at Mississippi State because he's a product of the system. And I think already at this point now, he's already underappreciated. I think some of the criticism about Will has been a little bit unfair, to be honest with you. That's not to say that he can't play better. I'm not sitting here telling you that he's Gardner Minshew. He's not. And he shouldn't be. Gardner Minshew was a fifth-year senior, a well-traveled fifth-year senior. Guy that had a chip on his shoulder, and Will probably has one too. But, Gardner was the guy too that, he signed with Troy, I guess, and then went to Northwest Mississippi Community College and East Carolina and then to Alabama for about a week and then ended up at Washington State and had a huge year up there. Now he's in the National Football League. And so, Will's the guy too that, we still got the training wheels on a little bit. And again, that's not to be critical of him. That's just the reality of playing a young quarterback. And so, again, I think he's farther ahead of what a lot of his peers were at this point in their careers. He's playing, really before he's ready. But he'll get there. And I'm a firm believer in that. I know some other people will disagree, but, I go back to the whole thing about, will the scheme work? And then we say, well, we got receivers running open all the time. So that tells me the scheme is solid. The whole point of offense is to be able to get, your playmakers open, get your playmakers in a position to make a play. And so if we're able to do that, and then maybe we've got a young quarterback that sometimes doesn't trust it and isn't quite willing to let it go, that's about the maturation of a quarterback. So maybe we're not getting the quarterback play that allows this offense to run at its highest level of proficiency right now. But I think that actually bodes well for the scheme. You think, okay, well, as Will begins to mature and Will begins to trust what he sees, then you're going to see better production on his offense. And so, but it can't be both. It can't be the air raid won't work and we've got receivers running wide open. You see what I'm saying? Those two things both can't be true. If we got guys running open, then schematically we're doing what we need to do. We just need to get a little bit better quarterback play. And that's not to say that he's playing poorly. I know, the quarterback is often the one that gets too much credit and then too much blame. There's a lot of guys involved in this whole process. And again, Will can do some things better. But I'm still a Will Rogers fan. And I'll be honest with you guys, when we took him as our quarterback that year, I was a little bit on the fence about it. I mean, I really was. Because in my mind, I really thought, well, this guy's probably like a Southern Miss, a Memphis-type guy. And that's not to say that they hadn't had some guys at those schools that could play here. Because we have had some real adventures at quarterback over the years. We really have. We've had some guys who, I don't know how they even got an offer at times. And they come here and it doesn't work out and they move on. I think Will is well ahead of some of his predecessors at Mississippi State. But I think you just got to be patient with him. And there's going to be some up and down with the young quarterback. That's just kind of the reality of life. But as he begins to mature, you're going to see the offense be a little bit better. And again, as I told you guys on Monday, if we can have that same level of improvement we had down the stretch last year, I think we can feel really good about the direction of the program and the offense. But what's going to happen, and I can already see it now, is those same people that are saying that, hey, Chris Lamonis sits on a bucket and and then there's no emotion from Joe Moorhead, and I still laugh about that. It's like I'm on the sidelines of every one of Joe Moorhead's games, home or away. I was at every game on every sideline. So I hear what Joe is saying. I watch what Joe is doing, and then I go back and watch the ESPN broadcast, and I see Joe look a little more reserved. And so that paints this false narrative, and people kind of they get on the message boards and on social media and say, hey, the guy's just kind of unemotional. It's just not true. It's not true. And so we have people that don't go to games, and that's the only perception they have is what they see on a TV broadcast. And we're getting some of that with Leach right now too. It's, oh, well, he just seems oblivious. Guys, that's just simply not true. It's not true. And to say that he's not engaged in what's going on, it's unfair and just completely untrue. And again, there are some things we can do better. They absolutely can be better. But what's going to happen is once Will begins to mature a little more, and he's already come a long way over last year. There were times last year he was kind of, you could tell, even though he has some moxie and some poise about him, there were times it looked a little bit overwhelming at times. I don't see as much of that this year. But as Will matures and develops a little bit, next thing you know, we start running this offense at a much better level, then the narrative is going to be, well, we changed some play calling, or we did. No. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's got nothing to do with adjustments. It's got to do with experience. It's got to do with letting the guy grow up a little bit. And that's what needs to happen. That's what's going to happen. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. Great people, man. Great food, great prices, great portions, great locations. Just everything about Bulldog Burger Company is great. That should probably be the marketing campaign. Bulldog Burger is great. I love going in there. I'm always so impressed with the consistency. A lot of times you go places, one day it's a good day, the next day it's a bad day, and you're like, well, I really want it, but I don't know. That's the thing about Bulldog Burger Company. You're going to get the same thing every time. The same quality, restaurant quality hamburger, the same meal. It's going to be so wonderful every time you go. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive there in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and of course the new one, Lake Harbor Drive there in Ridgeland. Still get a lot of good reports about experiences down there. I share with you guys all the time when you think it's a game, but it's not. If you can complete a full Bulldog Burger Company meal, I'm impressed. I can't do it. The portions are so good. I always bring some home and give it to my dogs, or I have it for lunch the next day. It's significant. It really is. Go find your own favorites. Get that chocolate shake to go, and always have the spring rolls. They make you better looking. They do. You maybe eat that as an appetizer or as an entree. I don't know. I guess you could have it as a dessert. I won't judge you. But the spring rolls are absolutely incredible. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, if you were unaware, the SEC announced the 2022 college football schedule last night. I saw some people, too, on social media. And, I'm going to comment on it. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but I'm going to. They were being critical of Mississippi State for announcing a schedule. What? Number one, it's not our decision. We're not just looking ahead to next year. We're still focused on this year. Give me a break. It gives people a chance to plan a little bit. Not to mention the SEC determines the rollout of all that stuff. Come on. And thumbs up to Mississippi State's marketing department. Jack, the greatest boy, man. I love Jack. He's a great Bulldog. Jack, the star of the MSU schedule announcement, did a great job, and everybody involved with Jack is just top-notch, man. He's a beautiful dog, but also, too, very well-behaved. He's good with kids. He was a star of the show. If you haven't seen it, go look for that. Jack lets you know the schedule. Does a great job. Our marketing department really does a great job. I don't know that they get enough credit for that. They've won several awards, but I think sometimes that some of our fans get in such a habit of griping about Mississippi State, we can't always recognize when we've got something great. It's like there were many people who couldn't even enjoy college baseball season. It's like, we had some ups and downs, and granted, the crew certainly made it entertaining, losing to Mizzou and, getting blown out of Hoover. But, even in Omaha, when we're playing at the highest level, it's like, we're just so afraid of the other shoe dropping. It's like it's just so hard to believe. No, Steve, you don't understand. No, I understand. I've lived with this my whole life, too. But I believe the best is yet to come for Mississippi State. I believe that our future is going to be more productive than our past. And I think we need to understand that anything that happened in the past really has no bearing on the future. It's not this whole, repetitive cycle of self-fulfilling prophecy that many people think it is. I remember one time I walked out of a ball game and this guy looked at me and he goes, man, it's just dogs being dogs. Well, I've got higher expectations for the dogs. And there are a lot of people that think, I expect a lot from Mississippi State. Well, I do too. But, there's a little more to it than just making a tweet. Let me just send out a tweet and talk about how great I think this thing should be. There's just a lot more to it than that. This is a relationship. There are a lot of people that want the benefit of the relationship without the work. Kind of like that in life, too. It's like, well, I just want Mississippi State to win all the time, so I can go out here and wear my shirt and talk trash to all my friends at the water cooler, get out there on the golf course and be able to say, don't even look at me. I've got my Mississippi State National Championship hat on. There's probably some truth in all that, too. But, there is a downside of that sometimes, too. And so I think it's important to understand that, our job, and our jobs are a little bit different, obviously, because I'm in the media, but, we turn up, we cheer, we buy tickets, we support the team. That's not to say we can't be critical every once in a while, because that's, I'm been critical on this show. Matter of fact, I've gotten some phone calls from friends. Hey, man, I thought you were a little bit hard on this guy. Thought you were a little hard on Ben Howland last year. Thought you were a little hard on this. I just kind of call it as I see it. But my love for Mississippi State's not diminished by any of that stuff. And I say this all the time, and I think people don't fully appreciate that. There are some people out there, like on the GenesPage.com message boards, a few people out there that are kind of chronically negative. Well, I've met some of those people, and I don't know that their love for Mississippi State sometimes is properly represented in their social media footprint, if you know what I'm saying. It's like they love Mississippi State, but they go to their event when they're upset. Like the only time they post is when they're upset. Well, that's because they've gotten what they wanted when we win, and so everybody's built a little bit different. So I just think let's not judge each other too harshly. There's room for all of us. I like it when we're winning all the time too, and everybody's all happy, joyous, and free. But I understand that's not the reality. But we get into this season too, we all knew that the margin for error for bowl eligibility was pretty slim. And so we got to find a way to upset somebody to make us feel good again. We do. We need something good to happen. We need Stone Blanton to commit to Mississippi State. We need Quintel Jones, somebody like that. We need something positive to happen, for sure. All right, let's look at this 2022 schedule. I know many of you guys may have already seen it. But let's run through this thing, the 2022 schedule for Mississippi State. And you probably know this, but we open up with Memphis at our place. And so let me make sure that everybody understands this, especially after what happened. We got to blow those guys out. And I mean, we got to be throwing in the fourth quarter. We don't take a timeout. We don't take a knee. We run tempo. If we can get 100, we get 100. We let an inferior football team beat us last week. And again, I told you guys, was Memphis capable of beating us? Yeah, they had some help, but we got to be able to lay the hammer down on those boys next year when they come up here. We absolutely do. I think this fan base demands it. I think this fan base deserves it. Had to listen to so much this last week. And there are a lot of people out there, I mean, even like the LSU people are like, man, you guys get screwed. Yeah, it's true, but, we shouldn't have been in that position. And, again, that's not in any way to diminish the impact of that non-call, which is a complete joke. And one of our Gene's Page message boarders was at the Hoover Country Club yesterday and actually ran into Mark Curls, the white hat from that crew. And he posted, and again, these are his words, that Mark Curls went around basically explaining himself like 5 different times that the back judge never told him that he waved his hands. Back judge never told him. Well, if that's true, then that guy needs to be fired. Fired. And again, I go back to the whole thing with Mark Curls too. If you're the head of that crew, when you look at that play and say, you know what, hey guys, it's kind of a weird play. Let's all kind of get together here. Let's kind of get together and make sure this thing is right. Because listen, there's 6 minutes to go in this ball game. If this play stands, Mississippi State, the conference that we work for, is going to have a loss on the road to a G5 team. And you'd say, well, Steve, that shouldn't matter. I just think it's the impact of the play necessitates a conversation. It's not a basic play. It'd be one thing if he just kind of gets out in the open field and, it's a routine punt return. But due to the kind of unique nature of the play, Mark Curls owed it to Mississippi State and the Southeastern Conference to at least stop the game and have a conversation. Maybe that gives the replay a little more time. One thing I've been informed of, too, and I may have misspoke about this, because it wasn't an SEC game, the guys at the SEC office, the control center, wasn't their game. That's the in-stadium replay official, Michael Wilkins, I believe is his name. It's his discretion there. And so we got to get that done. But at the end of the day, these are SEC officials, and they've got an obligation to do a great job. But anyway, we got to get a little revenge against Memphis. And again, Mike, if you can get 80, get 80. If you can get a 90, get 90. If you can get 100, even better. I think you got to run the score up as best you can. All right, the next week we're going to make the long trip to Tucson, Arizona. I have been to Tucson. It is a beautiful place. Arizona is a beautiful state. It's a long drive. Not sure if I'm going to drive or fly. I enjoy the driving aspect of all this stuff, too. And a lot of people say, Steve, my gosh, you're in the car so much. It's therapeutic for me. I kind of like being away for a while. Just kind of turn the radio up and see some things I don't see very often or have never seen before. So it might actually make the drive out there. We'll see. Arizona's a long way. And I know we got to go over there and play at their place. But, that program is kind of in, in flux. That's a game I look at today, and I think, if we can just kind of improve a little bit, we ought to be able to go out there and get a W. We'll see. It's always hard to go win on the road in the Power 5. But, as of right now, if both teams kind of continue their trajectories, I would like to think we could go out there and win that ball game. But that's going to be a neat trip for Mississippi State folks. We'll probably never play at Arizona again in our lifetimes. So it'll be cool to go out there and see us play in the desert. And, yeah, I'm sure it'll be really, really hot. I'm hoping for a night game. Please, 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 please give us a night game at Arizona. All right, the next week we come right back. We're on the road at Tiger Stadium. That's always a tough place for us to go play. Even though we've won down there a couple times last 20 years or so. I guess we won down there in 14. I guess that was our first win since 91 down there. Should have won there in 2000. We were cheated out of a ball game there. Dadgum SEC officials again. All right, the next week we come home. Our second home game of the year comes in week 4 against Bowling Green. We've played those guys a few times. That's the thing you look at, these MAC teams. I kind of like it when the MAC teams come. Number one, we expect to win, but they're kind of fun teams. They come down here and play hard. A lot of those guys have this SEC Power 5 chip on their shoulder, like, hey, we should have been Power 5 guys. They're not, but they come out there and play with a lot of fire. We played those guys one time. I was mistaken, and that was a close ball game. We won 21-20 back in 2013. I wanted to say I thought we played them before that, but we didn't. So 21-20 winners. They gave us a game. And so no idea what those guys are going to look like next year. They're not good this year, but we'll kind of move ahead. But that should be a game we win. And so if you're being I would say we're probably 2-2 at this point. If we can win at Arizona, we're 3-1. And I could probably talk myself into that. But we could be 3-1. I don't expect to win in Tiger Stadium. I just don't. And now that's not to say we can't. Because this nucleus of guys we have on offense, people forget sometimes, too, how young we are on offense. And I don't want to rant too much about this and take on the message boarders and the social media folks here, but people, why do we keep saying we're so young? Well, it's because we have a freshman quarterback, and so he's a COVID freshman. But think about it. Jaden Wally, one of your best receivers, both of your running backs, Dylan Johnson, Woody Marks. That's kind of the nucleus of your skill positions. Now, Makai Polk, of course, is a guy, too, that's got a little experience, too. But, we're not an experienced team on offense. And people would say, we got all those upperclassmen on the offensive line. Guys, most of you have made more starts than they have. I mean, that's just being honest with you. Charles Cross, that guy's a stud. He is. Cam Jones is a guy who was a developmental guy we signed late out of Starkville High School. Got in there at right tackle last year, not because he's a tackle, but because he's a competitor. Because Greg Allen wasn't getting it done, so he slide him over there. Now he's at left guard. LaQuinson Sharp barely played last year, elected to come back. Now he's your starting center. I think he's done a pretty good job. He had the one bad snap last week, but he's played pretty well. Dollar Bill, it's an adventure with Dollar Bill at right guard, but the guy hadn't played much. Last year, just the conditioning just got to him. Even though he had dropped a bunch of weight, he just didn't have, the physical acumen to get out there and consistently play 65, 75 snaps. Just wasn't able to do it. Just hit the wall. And then Scott Lashley's a guy that's kind of been a career reserve. He's played more at Mississippi State than he has the rest of his college career combined. And so, we might have some guys that have a S or a J next to their name. It doesn't mean they played. We're largely inexperienced. And I know that's like, oh, you're making excuses. No, I'm not. That's just the reality of it. That's not to say these guys won't get better. We're still a young team. But you begin to think about next year when you get ready to go to LSU. Now all of a sudden, Wiley and Marks and Johnson and Rogers, they got 3 years together. They're working on year 3 together. And so I'm not ready to just, automatically assume that's a loss, but, based on, the difference in talent level at times, you'd like Tigers at home for sure. All right, so let's just say we're 3-1. And you get A&M coming here, and that's been an adventure too. A&M has really struggled to win in Starkville. They have. Johnny Manziel won that first game up here, and then last year we kind of gifted them a game. And they were a better team than us last year too. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, we should have won the game. I mean, we had a pick six from Emmanuel Forbes that kind of got us back into the game, and then they got a block punt that kind of put us away, but it was a 28-14 ball game there. I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken. So that's a competitive game. I just A&M for some reason just never really impresses me. And listen, I thought they played well down the stretch last year. Give them a lot of credit. Under Kellen Mond, who I thought was very, very pedestrian early in his career. And that's the thing you go back and look, kind of like this whole deal with Will Rogers. I mean, we watched Kellen Mond absolutely melt on the field for 2 seasons. And then everybody props him up as a junior. Oh, he's going to do great. And then he doesn't. He was better, but he wasn't great. But last year, that guy was really good. And listen, you can call me a Kellen Mond hater. Maybe that's true. That guy impressed me last year. I really thought he took a big jump. And so, again, it's just, sometimes you got to give guys time to develop. I think Jimbo did a good job with Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond can owe his career to Jimbo Fisher. All right, the next week we have Arkansas coming in, and I'm interested to see kind of what that program looks like, next year. They're intriguing. Yeah, they are. I mean, KJ Jefferson's a guy that is a real load, kind of like Chris Ralph. The zone read is something that's pretty exciting for them. They're a team that'll get after you a little bit physically. And I had a chance to go back and watch some of that ball game against Texas last week, and they absolutely beat Texas up. And of course, they were feeling it. You're up in a ball game. Your crowd's going crazy. They got to come here. And for a while there, we absolutely dominated this series. Was it 9 of 11? Something ridiculous like that. We absolutely dominated this series. And, they've had some success. 2 of the last 3 trips to Starkville. So we got to reverse that. But, of course, I'm glad to get that game at home. Then we go back to Lexington, and that's another series that we dominated, but the last few trips to Lexington have been a little bit dicey, to say the least. And a lot of that, too, has been on us. Back in 2016, Peter Sermon doesn't know how to play defense. Nick Fitzgerald leads you down, hits Fred Ross. We're all excited. It's a game-winning touchdown. We just got to get a stop, and we can't get one and give up, a 53-yard field goal to lose. 2018, we go over there and can't get out of our own way. Offensive line got beat up. We pushed and shoved all night. Probably were a couple calls that went against us, but we were an undisciplined football team. Last year, we go up there, and the first time in Mike Leach's career, we don't score a touchdown. Come on. So, we've had a tough time going to Lexington. So, as much as I think Mississippi State is a better football program than Kentucky, the bottom line is the last 3 years that we've gone to Lexington, we have not played well. All right, then we get Alabama on the road the next week. That's always fun. Here's the thing, too, about Alabama, too. I know it's like there are a lot of their fans that don't travel. I think Bryant-Denny Stadium is just okay. I mean, they do some cool things there. I mean, the fans are very involved. It's not necessarily an indictment on Alabama fans by any stretch, but Bryant-Denny just kind of feels a little bit sanitized to me. And what I mean by that is, like, when you go to LSU, I mean, like, it kind of strikes some fear in your heart because you wonder, if we're going to be able to get out of here alive? I mean, the fans are right on top of you, and it gets rough. I mean, it does. And that's not to say that Alabama doesn't have some rough fans, but it just feels like everybody is so far removed, from the playing surface. You know, you go to Razorback Stadium, and it's downright cozy. I mean, it really is. But you know you're in a college atmosphere. Alabama it almost seems kind of NFL, where it's just not, it doesn't really feel like a college venue to me. You may disagree, and that's okay. Like, to be honest with you, I think one of the coolest environments is Jordan Hare. I think it's really cool. I love what they do with that Eagle, man. They fly that bad boy around there. I think it's amazing. And one time against us, he flew into a window. Speaking of Auburn, we have them in Start Vegas the next weekend, November the 5th. I think it's a ball game right now. You look at right now, when you look at this schedule and how daunting it is, you got to win that one. Because you got a road trip to Lexington and a road trip to Bama. You come home for Auburn, and then the next week you get Georgia, who is recruiting as well as anybody in America right now. Not sure what Auburn's going to look like next year. We got to find a way to win that game. We do. I mean, our bowl eligibility might actually depend on that. Georgia absolutely rolling. They'll come in here, be excited about life. You know, back up a second. The good thing about that Auburn game, too, is we get a bye week ahead of that. That's the only bye. 8 straight games, and then we get a bye week before we play Auburn. Played them pretty tight last year, and then Gus danced and then got fired. Maybe he got fired for the dancing rather than the football. It was pretty bad. I mean, and it's a guy that is probably the best self-taught club dancer that you have ever known. I wish these people would show me a little more respect when I'm in the building. You know, Gus comes up here to my town, dances like that, and he gets fired. You think it's an accident? You think it's all a coincidence? No, it's not. Sometimes you got to call in some markers. But the Georgia thing is interesting. You know, I think Georgia has a legitimate chance to win the national championship this year. And then they come here next year, and it's not like they're going to be devoid of talent. That's going to be a very difficult game for us. We played them tough at their place last year. We did. So it's not like, Mike Leach, I think, is intimidated or scared of Georgia. That's one thing I'll say about Leach, too, that's maybe different from some of the coaches we've had in the past. You know, Jackie Sherrill is probably the only guy in my lifetime that I would really say didn't get tied in ball games. He was a guy that thought we had a chance to win every game. And he coached it that way. We're going to go out there, and we're going to have some pride about ourselves, and we're going to go try to win this ball game. And Dan Mullen, of course, felt that way against, the Kentuckys and South Carolinas of the world. But, Dan was intimidated by Alabama. I don't know that he is anymore, but he was. He was intimidated by Alabama and Nick Saban. I don't think Jackie Sherrill was ever intimidated by Alabama. I know Sylvester Croom wasn't intimidated by Alabama. But that's the thing I'll say about Mike Leach. I think Leach believes he can devise a plan to beat any team in the country. It's just a matter of if we can go out there and have the athletes to implement that and execute the plan. All right, the next week we get East Tennessee State. Vanderbilt might send us a warning after they played so poorly against them. But, it's obviously a ball game we should win. I kind of like the fact that if we're not going to have a bye week, to have an FCS game before the Egg Bowl and that short turnaround, got to make that trip to Oxford the next week on a Thursday. And, we've had some success at Oxford. Almost had some success again last year. We for a while there, the visiting team in this series did really well. So we'll see. Matt Corral will be gone. We don't know who the quarterback will be. And listen, Matt Corral's playing well. I mean, that's just the reality of life. I mean, I don't know how anybody – you may hate it. You might hate that he's playing well, but to say the guy's not playing well is kind of silly. And you go back again, kind of the point I made about Rodgers earlier and about Kellen Mond is, when Matt Corral first got here, there was no denying the guy had an incredible arm talent. His decision-making process was awful. Awful. It's gotten better. Jeff Levy, Lane Kiffin done a good job kind of developing him. And we'll see how things look. But that's your 2022 schedule. And I got to tell you, look at this thing, too. You look at it and you begin to think, man, we are really going to have to improve as a football team to ensure we have a winning season. Obviously, you get the usual suspects from the West. You pick up Georgia and you get that difficult road trip to Lexington. You start thinking, man, goodness, right out of the gate, where the win's going to come from. We don't get Vandy on the schedule this year. So we're going to have to improve. Simple as that. There aren't going to be any gimmies. And I know there are a lot of people out there that think, oh, well, we need this favorable schedule to get bowl eligible. Again, I expect Mississippi State to improve, especially in 2022. We knew last year was kind of a throwaway year. We wanted to take a step forward this year and have a winning year, get bowl eligible again, and then kind of build towards 2022. So I think Mississippi State is going to be a really good football team next year. But we got a really challenging schedule. A really challenging schedule in 2022. So go check it out for yourself. Maybe take in some cool road trips. That's one of the things that I'll share with you guys too. And granted, I have a fun job, but it's still a job. I'd love to be able to sit home and watch Netflix and listen to music all day. But the reality of it is I get to go a lot of cool places. And if you have never gone and watched Mississippi State play at some of these venues, let me encourage you to do that. Not only would it be great for the Bulldogs because they need as many voices in the stands as possible, but it'd be great for you to make those memories. I used to be so envious of like Dave Murray. Like whenever I would hear Dave talk about, oh, yeah, we went to Williams-Brice Stadium or we covered this and I was here for that. I think, man, I want to go to those places. I want to know what that's about. I want to go to Omaha and go to the Drover restaurant. I want to be able to do all that stuff. And now that I've done it, I'll tell you, yeah, it's worth it. It's great. And as much as we want you to come to home games, we absolutely do. And we don't want to trade one for the other. But maybe pick out a road trip, at least one a year, and say, you know what, I'm going to go do that. I remember when I first started doing that with my oldest son and my best friend and his son, every year we would pick up at least one road trip, sometimes two. And it was so fun to go out there, like you see your other Bulldog fans walking around with their Mississippi State stuff on, and everybody you see is like, Hell State, man, Hell State. Screw these guys, And in some ways, it kind of deepened my fandom for Mississippi State. Going out and watching those guys compete on the road. It does. It makes a difference. And I have so many people that have said, yo, Steve, I can't believe you do home and away football and baseball. Football I kind of get, but baseball, and it does require a commitment, man. It really does. But it's like there are so few things in life that really bring you true joy. You know what I'm saying? Most things are just kind of, above average. But I love going and covering Mississippi State on a baseball field. I do. I love it. I love going and watching the Bulldogs play on the road. I love those road trips. I love being able to get out there and go see those campuses. And it's amazing. It really is. And so I would always encourage you, when given the opportunity, go support Mississippi State on the road. And so maybe be thinking about that Arizona trip because, that's probably a once-in-a-lifetime trip for us. And I don't say that just because, it's going to be such a great trip. I'm just saying, when are we going to get a chance to go watch the Bulldogs, our Bulldogs, play at Arizona? Probably never again. And so maybe be thinking about that as you kind of move ahead. But again, 2022 schedule is out, and again, it looks to be very, very challenging. Let's get to today's top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's BLAIR, closewithblair.com. Blair Chandler is a friend of mine. I have known Blair a long time. I trust Blair. And here's the deal. Many of you maybe don't know a lot about the mortgage lending industry. You need someone you can trust. You've got a man on the inside in Blair Chandler. Blair's a Bulldog. Blair's a season ticket holder, multiple sports, has a place up here in Starkville, spends a lot of time up here. I believe in doing business with Bulldogs whenever we can. And Blair is absolutely that. But even more so, one of the top loan originators in the industry. Works for Fairway Mortgage, one of the top 5 mortgage companies in the country. Blair in the top 1% close ratio nationally. That's a guy that knows how to get things done. And so if you're intimidated by the process, maybe you don't know anything about it at all, let Blair kind of guide you through. There's not a loan out there that he hadn't seen before. A lot of people thinking, well, Steve, you still understand. Well, maybe you don't understand. Maybe the first time you tried, or maybe the last time you tried, maybe you got mixed up with maybe some subprime lender that, some loan officer just didn't understand your situation and couldn't properly articulate your unique circumstances to underwriting. That's what Blair can do. Visit closewithblair.com, or better yet, maybe call or text Blair. He is happy to talk to you. He's probably closing a loan right now, so if he doesn't get right back with you, he will. Just give him a little time. 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. And to give you a little incentive and also kind of reward you for being a Boneyard listener, if you mention to Blair that you heard about him on the Boneyard, just say, hey, I've heard about you on Steve's show, the Boneyard. He's going to pay for your appraisal. How about that? That's Bulldogs taking care of Bulldogs, man. That's about a $300 value. He's going to take care of it for you. Just because you're a Boneyard listener. So let him know, whether you text him or call him or email him or send him a, carrier pigeon, whatever. I heard about it on the Boneyard. I want my free appraisal, Blair. You promised it to me, and he will absolutely take care of you. Okay, today's top 10 list, we're going back. Recent rock covers. I did that recently, and the list exploded, man. You guys love covers. I've had so many people that say, hey, man, Steve, I love the covers. And I get a chance to talk top 10 lists with some of you guys, and you're out there, guys and gals. I have a lot of women that reach out about the rock stuff. And so let that be a lesson in some of you guys, too. There's a lot of women that really want to rock. They do. And they're usually very, very good looking. Just little words of advice there. All right, so top rock covers really in the last couple of years. I did this list, a similar list here about a month ago, and the list was incredible. I had so many people that reached out, Steve, this is such a great rendition. I've never heard of this band. And so I have got some amazing stuff for you today. Some very classic songs covered by some contemporary artists. Many of them you've heard of, some you haven't. But I'm eager to see how this list does. I love rock covers. You guys do too. And it's one of those cool things to find one of your favorite bands, maybe singing one of your other favorite bands' songs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was a big Led Zeppelin fan, and I love to hear Tool's version of No Quarter, which is amazing. All of a sudden, I love Tool, and I'm like, what, are you kidding me? They're doing one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs? It gets your attention. All right, so here's the top 10 list. Recent rock covers, part 2. Recent rock covers, part 2. A band I didn't know a whole lot about, but they're really cool. A band called Code Orange. It's a live version. It is amazing. Of Alice in Chains, Down in a Hole. Now we did, on the last one I mentioned the In Flames version, but Code Orange, a little different, a little more maybe dialed in a little bit. I think you'll dig it. Code Orange is Down in a Hole by Alice in Chains. Number 9, I have seen this band live with Korn and Breaking Benjamin and Silver Snakes there in Biloxi. It's a band called Motionless in White. Then they're heavy, and they've got a little bit of an industrial grit to them. They're a really heavy band. Their take on the Killers classic, Somebody Told Me. Oh my gosh, that's like the only song by the Killers that most people know. Motionless in White does a great job kind of holding true to the original, but also kind of mixing in some of their own style. I think you'll absolutely dig that one. Again, that's Somebody Told Me, covered by Motionless in White. Number 8, a band that I love, and I probably should have mentioned them on my favorite first of the 2020s. It's a band called Bad Omens, and this guy can really, really sing. There are a lot of these bands nowadays that sing like me.
Do you find that you've got less time to do the things you really want to do? Maybe you don't have time to run to the store and put together a great gourmet meal for the family. Well, our friends at HelloFresh are here to help you. Fall is very, very busy. The kids are back in school. There's lots of activities. Not to mention sometimes you just don't feel like going and dealing with the hustle and bustle of the supermarket. Allow our friends at HelloFresh to take care of you. HelloFresh's family-friendly menu is a big win for back-to-school season with easy, delicious recipes for drama-free dinners. We all want more of that. They offer 50 menu and market items to choose from every single week. From vegetarian meals and calorie-smart choices to extra-special gourmet options, there's something for everybody in the family. Recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. All right, so here's the deal. I have tried all of these, home delivery kits, and I'll be honest with you, HelloFresh is exactly what they mean. The name is not just some catchy marketing campaign. It is HelloFresh, delivered right to your door. Because I believe in its product, I've partnered with these folks, and I'll be honest with you, we're going to share a promo code for you to help you get involved, let's just say. Go to HelloFresh.com/Boneyard14. What's a Boneyard for? Boneyard is for you. The 14 is for free meals. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/Boneyard and the number 14. Boneyard 14. For up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. You can't do better than that. Again, HelloFresh.com/Boneyard14.
Guys, do you want to lose weight fast, have more energy, and improve your health? Now you can with Nutrisystem for Men. Get delicious breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, even snacks and shakes delivered right to your door. All delivered for free. It's easy to follow, and you'll see results in your first week. Go to Nutrisystem.com/meal now and get 50% off everything. And with their new premium meals, guys get bigger, bolder meals with up to 30 grams of protein and 25% more calories to keep you feeling full and satisfied as you drop the pounds. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/meal right now and get 50% off. You heard me right. Go to Nutrisystem.com/meal right now and get 50% off everything. Forget about takeout and fast food. Nutrisystem for Men is real food and real simple. It's all planned out and delivered right to your front door. Don't wait. This special offer will not last forever. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/meal right now and get 50% off. Go to Nutrisystem.com/meal.
But better. But there's not a lot of talent. And like the thing about Bad Omens is like they've got an acoustic EP too, similar to like the band Slaves. Like they take their bigger hits and then they'll do like an acoustic unplugged type deal. They change the arrangement a little bit. And you can really find out who can sing and who can't. Bad Omens is legit. They covered Duran Duran's Come Undone and rocked it up a little bit too now. So, you need to, maybe unbutton your shirt a little bit because this is not one that is really for the meek. It's not so loud it's going to bust your eardrums, but it is much more gritty than, say, the Duran Duran version. And I love that Duran Duran wedding album with Ordinary World and Come Undone on it. It is phenomenal. It was a great return. But Come Undone is a song that a lot of people have covered. I think Bad Omens probably the best version of Come Undone other than the original. Number 7. We talked about this band, led by David Draymond, Disturbed. Last time we did these rock covers, we talked about their cover of The Sound of Silence, which was a huge hit for them. Here, this is one, too, that is a little bit different. They covered Sting's If I Ever Lose My Faith in You. And I love their version. I think it's a little more tuned down. It's a little bit darker, and it sounds a little bit more desperate than the Sting version. The Sting's version sounds a little poppy. I think Disturbed's version is a little darker, and I kind of like it that way because if I ever lose my faith in you, it's if you really read the lyrics on this, it's really not a happy song. It's kind of played that way, but it's really not. It's like, I've got all these other things that are going on in my life, and I've lost faith in the politicians and the government and all this and all that. But if I ever lost my faith in you, it's just something I couldn't come back from. It's a bit of a love song, but it's kind of dark. Okay, number 6. This is a duet that's part of one of my favorite bands. It's Brent Smith and Zach Myers from Shinedown, better known as Smith and Myers. They have done 3 acoustic albums, and I'm happy to say I recommended this song for them to cover on the second Smith & Myers project. They actually did 2 albums as part of the second one, so they have 3 total acoustic albums, Smith & Myers. If you like Shinedown or if you like covers, you can go find a bunch. Well, I actually suggested this song, and they took it. It is incredible. We have talked about this original on the show, but it is from Smith & Myers Volume 2, I guess, and it's Never Tear Us Apart from NXS. I just felt that Brent Smith's range was perfect for the song. And I contend Never Tear Us Apart is the best love song of my generation. I don't think there's any question. I absolutely love that song. I love Michael Hutchence. It makes me sad that he's no longer with us. Very, very, very difficult life for him toward the end, and much of it self-inflicted. But Smith & Myers, a great version of Never Tear Us Apart by NXS. And both Zach and Brent sing on the song. Number 5, a female vocalist that I think is very underappreciated. Now, she had some recent notoriety, probably in the last couple of years, for her spot on, the Bad Wolves album. If you're not familiar with Bad Wolves, they're undergoing a singer change right now as Tommy Vex has left the band. But Bad Wolves, killers, man. Love those guys. Well, they did a song with Diamante that was incredible. And if you don't know it, maybe you should check it out. It's a song called Hear Me Now. It's a duet between Tommy and Diamante, and she is phenomenal. He's really good. I think she actually steals it. But Diamante did another duet with a very famous modern rock musician, Benjamin Burley, from Breaking Benjamin, There For You Baby Fred. They covered Goo Goo Dolls' version of song Iris, my goodness. Diamante and then Breaking Benjamin, Iris. And you know the Goo Goo Dolls song, an incredible, incredible song. Probably, I'd venture to say Iris is probably the biggest Goo Goo Dolls song. And I don't know, we haven't done a Goo Goo Dolls top 10. Maybe we should. Roy, put that on the list. But their version of it is really cool. It's interesting, too, to hear, kind of the dynamic between Diamante and Ben. So that's Iris from Diamante. Number 4, one of my favorite bands covering a song from another one of my favorite bands. And it's Seven Dust. I've met those guys, met LJ a couple times. Absolutely killer, man. They're so down to earth. There's so many people that are in the rock industry that they think they're too good for fans. That's not Seven Dust, man. Those guys are really, really, really committed to their fans. They never, ever, ever act like that they are somehow too cool for school. But Seven Dust covered a Audioslave song or two live after Chris Cornell died. Well, they went in the studio and they actually recorded a Soundgarden track that they actually released, and it's available on iTunes and Spotify and everything else. And it's The Day I Tried to Live from the Super Unknown album. I love that album. Sometimes I go back and forth which are my favorite Soundgarden's albums. 1 and 2 are Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown, but I thought Lejean did a great job holding true to the original, but kind of making it a Seven Dust track song too. But it's The Day I Tried to Live, covered by Seven Dust. That's your number 4 song. Number 3, speaking of Soundgarden and Chris Cornell, God rest his soul. I think we've actually used this song on another top 10 list, but I wanted to kind of mention it again because it is so great, and it actually was on the Billboard charts after it was released. It is from the No One Sings Like You Anymore covers album. Chris Cornell covered, I understand there's like 70 or 80 recorded covers, and about half of them haven't been released yet. And so Vicky Cornell released this album, No One Sings Like You Anymore, and Chris Cornell had covered Patience by Guns N' Roses. It is a beautiful rendition. And so it brings tears to my eyes, man, when I hear it, because I know that we're done. You know what I'm saying? It's like Audioslave supposedly has enough material for 3 albums with Chris Cornell. A lot of it's not finished. And then Soundgarden has at least 1, maybe 2 albums out there. And then, of course, Vicky Cornell has the rights to all of those other cover songs. So there's a bunch of other Chris Cornell music that hadn't been released. So maybe we'll get that at some point. But it saddens me to know that once that's gone, that's it. There's not going to be anything fresh. And that's I've told you guys before, Chris Cornell, that's the most impactful celebrity death in my life. The guy wrote the soundtrack to my recovery, and after he died, I'll be honest with you, it took me days to really kind of move forward. And that sounds a little bit vulnerable, and maybe I'm being soft or whatever, but I discovered Chris Cornell really when I was in rehab. Like, I'd heard Soundgarden, you know what I'm saying? Like, I knew who they were, and I knew their songs, some on MTV. But I was in treatment. I had a roommate that was actually from Ole Miss, of all places, and he was really into that Bad Motorfinger album. And so I just sat down, listened to it, and read the liner notes, and I was like, this guy is just on a different level than everybody else. And in many respects, it changed my life. All right, number 2. Now, this is a song from one of the most famous country music singers of all time, Dolly Parton. And the song was covered by Whitney Houston, and it was a huge hit off the Bodyguard soundtrack, I Will Always Love You. Now, Lzzy Hale from Hailstorm, I've told you guys, she is the best female rock vocalist in the world today. I don't think there's any question. She is phenomenal. And a lot of people like her because she does rock and she's got some grit to her voice and that sort of stuff. But this rendition of the song, I think, really kind of shows you how talented she really is. And there are so many people out there that listen to the show and think, we talk a lot about music. Let me tell you, when I give you bands like Hailstorm, I am giving you a gift. Lzzy Hale is a musical genius. She is blessed with an amazing voice. And while this may sound a little bit like hyperbole in many respects, I think she is the Janis Joplin of this generation. because she can use the low register. She can use the high register. She is phenomenal, and obviously a more polished singer than Janice, and I mean that with all due respect. But this version of I Will Always Love You is really, really good. And so check it out today. It's number 2. But number 1, I thought we'd have some fun with this one. Came out, 3 or 4 months ago. It's Korn and Yellow Wolf's version of The Devil Went Down to Georgia. How cool is that? Many of you haven't even heard that. Now, nothing will ever be as good as the original Charlie Daniels version. Okay, let's just go ahead and accept that as fact. But the fact that Korn did this, I think they did Word Up on their Greatest Hits album, which is great. But Korn doing The Devil Went Down to Georgia. So it's almost like, I always said when I was a kid that I really thought that Johnny lost the battle. And I still contend that too. I know some of you are like, well, Johnny was great. No, listen. The Devil's Band won. Johnny lost. It's time we accept that. And while the song is great, let's admit it. It's true. The Band of Demons won when The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And so now that Korn kind of is the Band of Demons in many respects, it's kind of ironic. So go check that out. Korn, The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and Yellow Wolf is part of that too. Yellow Wolf, of course, a rapper from Alabama. I really dig it. I think all these songs are great, and I think because many of them are classic songs covered by contemporary artists, I think you'll really appreciate that. And I always like kind of throwing a bone out there for some of these newer bands and maybe some people that you don't know quite as well, like Code Orange, Bad Omens, and Diamante. I'm always trying to help you guys expand your musical repertoire. If you have an idea for the top 10 list, reach out, let me know. I am on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. If you're looking for a list, go to Spotify and search Dogmatic 67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. That is Roy's Spotify. And follow that. Or you can follow Roy on Twitter. And every time that Roy tweets it out, like maybe if you're not a Spotify person, maybe you're there with Steve, I'm Apple Music. That's cool because Izzy Mandelbaum usually responds to those tweets. And maybe follow Izzy on Twitter too. And you can have those lists sent right to your phone. How cool is that? We talk about it here. You hit a button, and all of a sudden you've got the list, and you can kind of tell me where I'm wrong. You can have your own list, but it'd be wrong. But I'm trying to help you because I love you. I do. If nobody else loves you, I love you. And I want to thank Izzy and Roy for their assistance, kind of helping me bring the music to you guys too. And also, let's give a thumbs up to Roy Samante for his first tattoo. He says his last, but I don't believe that's the case. I'm going to work on him. Everybody says that. They get the first tattoo and they're like, oh, it hurts so bad. I don't know if I'm going to get another one. Well, it's really not so bad, Roy. Let's toughen up a little bit, okay? We're okay. You kind of bit off a lot there with that big baseball tattoo, kind of commemorating the national championship. So I'm glad. Allow me to welcome Roy to the Sacred Ink tribe. So, Roy, congratulations. I'm glad you survived it. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. A lot of it's the anxiety of getting the tattoo that is worse than a tattoo. It's like they expect it to hurt. And then, for me, I was like, hey, it didn't hurt as bad as I expected. This isn't so bad. And now I'm, largely covered up. But maybe you don't want to go that route, Roy. Maybe you don't. But congratulations on the tat. And listen, if you guys have gotten Mississippi State tats since the national championship and I hadn't seen them, send them to me. I'd love to see them. We can talk tattoos too. Next segment of the show brought to you by campusbookmart.net as we look ahead to the LSU Tigers. Standing man, Miss Kathy Brown, the lovely, talented Susie, Cindy, Candy, everybody up there. They're perfect. Great people. Miss Pam is up there. Miss Pam Minyard is there. A great addition to the squad. Go by and check them out. Allow them to help you outfit your family and latest in Mississippi State maroon and white merch. It's all right there. Miss Kathy Brown can get pretty much anything you want. Anything that's out there that's Mississippi State related, she'll grab it for you. And these are our people too. These are Starkville people that love Mississippi State. It's not just a business for them, okay? It's a passion. They want to help you find what you need to represent Mississippi State. You can find Standing Man out there in the left field lounge during Bulldog baseball. It's what we do. All right, so if you haven't been to town and you can't make it to town, maybe you live out in Arizona. Maybe you only get back to Mississippi once or so a year. Maybe you're like, Steve, it's so busy I can't get there. visit them on the World Wide Web. Rather than give your money to Amazon or something like that, go to campusbookmart.net. campusbookmart.net and support a Starkville business. By being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a little incentive to do that. Use promo code BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. And that's one of the things I've learned too, is a lot of people that did all this online shopping after the College World Series kind of found out, you know what, I'm probably better off dealing with the Starkville people. Because they know what maroon is, right? They care. You know, a lot of people, you're just a name and a number. You know, you're not really a customer. And it was crazy. There were so many of our Starkville businesses that were just overrun. And so many of you were so patient and so kind. And on behalf of all of them, thank you for doing that. It was a special moment for all of us. But when you're looking for Mississippi State merch, Campus Bookmart's the way to go. No doubt about it. All right, let's look at LSU. As I mentioned, I went through the Ed Orgeron press conference. They're a little bit worried about the secondary. You know, they're devised some little plan or whatever. They're going to change some things up. But they have been susceptible to the crossing routes. When they have gone man coverage, they've gotten beat. I expect that we'll see a lot of zone defense. I talked to some LSU folks yesterday that said, you know, it's one of those things they're a little bit worried about because they just don't ordinarily play a lot of zone. They put some zone in the system this year kind of with us in mind, to put some zone to kind of keep guys in front of them. Now, they're an athletic group for sure. But what happened last year is they lined up and tried to go man-to-man with Mississippi State's wideouts, so they got embarrassed. They got absolutely destroyed in that ball game. If KJ doesn't turn it over 3 or 4 times, you know, that ball game is a complete blowout. I think we all know that. Well, because of the fact that Orgeron, those guys got embarrassed, they've been prepared for Mississippi State for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see what wrinkles they come out there with. But, you know, this is a good defense, could be a really good defense, but it hadn't really played anybody. Let's look at the schedule. Of course, they opened the year losing that ball game to UCLA. Really, really, really upset a lot of people in the Bayou because, you know, UCLA was unranked. A lot of people had LSU overranked. They're not ranked now. They shouldn't be ranked. They're an unranked opponent coming to Mississippi State. It's still a very, very talented team, for sure. Are they capable of beating Mississippi State? You better believe it. And earlier in the week, I was thinking, LSU's going to win. They're going to do this. And the more I look at LSU, the more I start thinking, you know what, we can win this game. It's really all within our reach. It's up to us. It's that simple. If we go out there and turn the football over and have these 2-quarter lulls in ball games, we're going to get beat. That's the reality of it. And if we go out there and put a complete game together, we'll run LSU out of the stadium. LSU has really struggled to run the football. But, you know, going back and look at the UCLA game, UCLA outgained them by nearly 100 yards. Most of the LSU offense that game came through the air. LSU ran for just 49 yards in the game. That's it. That's not who LSU is and kind of their identity under Ed Orgeron. Even under Les Miles, LSU has always been a kind of punch-you-in-the-mouth team that wins the line of scrimmage. But they've had some real issues on the offensive front. They've had some guys banged up. They've had some guys be inconsistent. You know, they go play McNeese State, and LSU, again, 305 yards of offense. 305. And they run for 124, but you're playing McNeese State. And believe it or not, McNeese State actually possessed the ball more than LSU did. And LSU wins the ball game, late. They kind of put the game away 34-7. What was it, like 17 points there, 17-7 there in the third? They had to put some points together. Maybe it was 17-0 at the half against McNeese State. This is not a potent offense. Now, they found a little bit of potency last week with the passing game again against Central Michigan. Really thought Central Michigan would make this more of a game. LSU gets up 21-7 in the first quarter and then kind of puts it away there in the second quarter, makes it 35-7. But looking at the numbers here, this is their best offensive performance to date. 484 yards. 400 of that comes through the air. LSU runs for 84 yards. That's it. And, of course, a lot of that came late. It's almost like they're kind of abandoning the run. I don't think they can run on us anyway. And I think that's really kind of been the calling card of the Zach Arnett defense. It's like, we're going to make you one-dimensional. The difference is that LSU has some athletes on the outside out there that can really make you pay. So if we get a little bit leaky in coverage, yeah, we're going to give up some big plays. We got to be on top of it. There's no doubt about it. All right, so let's take a look at a little bit deeper into the LSU stuff here. So total on the year, 257 yards rushing. That's it. And again, it's, I don't know if they're just trying to get back to more of what worked with Joe Burrow and Joe Brady, but they're not running the football with any success. And it's not like, us, or they just don't run it. Guys, they ran it 36 times against McNeese State. 36 times for 124 yards. And the sad part about that is there was one carry for 23. So you had 35 carries for 101 yards. Against McNeese State, they can't run the football. They've had 74 receptions for 911 yards. 11 touchdowns, only 2 on the ground, only 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Johnson's been good, though, 74 of 122. And it's funny, this time last year, a lot of people were saying, he's going to transfer. He's going to transfer. It wasn't him that transferred. Just so you know. The next Cam Newton, as some people suggested, transferred. It's crazy how life works. Okay, so they've outgained their opponents 1168 to 896. That's not a very dramatic number, considering the quality of their opponents. And the disparity wasn't nearly as big until this past weekend when they put up 484 yards. All right, so let's take a look at some individual stats here. That's what you want to know is who we got to look for, Steve. And I get it. I understand it. And so I'm going to give it to you. So defensively, Damon Clark, number 18. And number 18 is kind of a jersey of notoriety at LSU. They kind of give it to their, not necessarily their best defensive player, but they give it to the guy that most demonstrates what, the attributes that LSU wants in a football player. So it's not a surprise that guy's leading the charge. 27 tackles for him. And then it really drops off. It really drops off. They've had some guys banged up. Former Mississippi State commitment, Devonta Q. Strong, has 13 tackles. He is third on the team. B.J. Ojulari, 4.5 sacks, leads the team. The guy's kind of getting after you. Number 8. Cordell Flott is a corner that State recruited. A lot of people thought was going to Auburn. He really got roasted last year. So I'm sure we expect him to come back and be ready to go and ready to compete. You may have heard Andre Anthony out for the year. One of LSU's top pass rushers. And so Mason Smith, former 5-star U.S. All-American, I think he's Army All-American, he is going to play some at defensive end. So that's going to be interesting. They've had a little bit of a change, I guess, there up front. So the rotation is missing a valuable guy. Now, Gaye is a guy that had a big game against Mississippi State last year. He has only played in one game, but they say he is cleared and ready to go this week. Gaye, number 11. Guy's a freak of an athlete. And so he was a guy last year that really, really stayed in our face, knocked some balls down. He's always getting his hand up in the passing lane. Derek Stingley didn't play against us last year. One of the top corners in America, will likely be a first-round draft pick. I don't think there's really any question about it. Just 8 tackles. Nobody's really challenging him this year. Doesn't have a pass breakup. Doesn't have a pick. Does have a forced fumble. That guy can really, really play. I've been hoping he'd go pro since the day he got there. That guy's legit. Eli Ricks is a guy that had a big pick against us last year, but was a guy, too. It's like he makes the pick, and everybody says, look how good he is. And then you go back and look at our highlights, and he's chasing the play over and over and over again. Perhaps he's improved a little bit, but played in 3 games, just got 3 tackles. He does have an interception, but not a guy at this point that you look at and say, hey, this guy's a guy that can shut down that side of the field. Todd Harris Jr. hadn't played much. Jay Ward's a guy that got lit up against us last year, has not played. Orgeron says they need him to play. They hope that he can go this week. He's only played in 1 game this year and only has 2 tackles. But make no mistake, this is a very athletic defense from LSU, especially up front. And you would expect that with Orgeron. With his ability to recruit and develop players in the NFL, it's kind of his specialty. So they ordinarily have been really strong at linebacker, and it's interesting they call themselves DBU.
I've always thought their linebackers really had better NFL careers. And there's been some guys, obviously, that have played a long time as defensive backs. But I've always thought the strength of an LSU defense has been the linebackers. This is a good group. I don't know if it's an elite group, but it is a very good group. All right, looking at some offensive numbers here. These are some of the things you look at, too. And it kind of illustrates, too, how important it is, this whole John Emery thing. That John Emery is unavailable to LSU. Not that he has been, Kevin Falk or anything like that. He has been, rather average. But they are really struggling to run the football. So, Corey Kiner, 130 yards, leads them in rushing. Tyron Davis-Price, expected to start again this week, has played 3 games. Leads the team in carries with 27, only has 72 yards, averaging 2.7 yards a carry. And here's the thing, too. We talk about 72 yards, 21 of that on 1 carry. 21. You begin to do the math on that. Yeah, that's right. 64 yards on 26 other carries. They are not running the football. Not with any success. Max Johnson, 3 games, 20 attempts, and some of those have been sacks, obviously 40. He's got a net of negative 20, averaging a yard a carry. Had one run for 12 yards. All right, let's look at the passing numbers. Mac Johnson here, the son of former Washington Redskins quarterback Brad Johnson, I guess the Washington football team now. I don't want to be accused of being inappropriate. Mac Johnson, though, comes from an NFL pedigree and has really played pretty well. He's 70 of 108 with 2 picks. That's just under 65%, 864 yards, 11 touchdowns, averaging 288 yards a game. Kashawn Butte is the guy they like to line up in a slot, getting paired up with a nickel. He has been kind of the straw that has stirred the drink. He's got 20 grabs. The guy can really, really play. Really shows no regard for his own personal safety. He will go make the difficult catch. There are a lot of guys that are scared to get down and dirty, not Butte. And just kind of stands to reason. He's another one of those, South Louisiana kids with South Louisiana roots that understands what it takes. Got to make sure we keep Jalen Green's got to have a big game. Let's just say that. Trey Palmer, 2 games played, 10 catches. Jack Bash is the guy we recruited, but obviously he's an LSU legacy. We always knew once LSU offered, it's where he was going. There were some people that suggested otherwise. Let me tell you, there was never any chance of him coming to Mississippi State once LSU offered. Dion Smith, 2 games played, 7 catches, 148 yards. Had a nice ball game last weekend for him. Found the end zone a couple times. Devontae Lee is a guy that was kind of highly recruited. Hadn't done a whole lot yet. Just 5 grabs, 47 yards. But you look at the numbers, and it's mainly coming, from Butte and, a couple other guys. They spread the ball around a little bit, but, Jeray Jenkins hadn't done a whole lot. There's just some guys out there that have done. Malik Neighbors, former Mississippi State commitment, we lose on signing day. 3 games in, despite the fact they played McNeese State, he's got 1 catch for 6 yards. That's it. And again, he'll end up being a great player at LSU. But it's one of those things, too. It's like, hey, we want him as a DB. Oh, we'll take him as a receiver now. And I won't be the least bit surprised if he's back at DB next year. It'll be interesting to see, for sure. Those are things you kind of look at, too. I mean, all is fair in level 1 recruiting, except for impermissible benefits. But there's just so much stuff that goes on and so many promises that are made and that are rarely kept. Okay, so let me look at the I'm kind of scrolling down to the special team stuff here because I want to look again at this kick stuff because I think it's rather interesting how people are going to handle us, how people are going to be able to do Tulu Griffin. What are they going to do to kind of keep Tulu Griffin curtailed? Yeah, but they have some good specialists at LSU. Cade York is kind of the field goal kicking guy, and he is 4 for 4 on the year. He's actually hit a couple from over 50 yards this year, along of 56. That's something to kind of consider too. Avery Atkins, the punter, 17 punts, averaging right at 41 yards per punt. Kickoffs, York has done a couple, but it's mainly been Avery Atkins, 15 of those for touchbacks. And so I'm sure that'll just be the game plan, to just kind of kick it through the back of the end zone. Another interesting thing, kind of looking at LSU, too, turnover numbers. This is not a defense that has really, created a lot of turnovers. That's something to kind of watch as we kind of move forward, too. Is, they've had a couple of picks, But outside of that, they just haven't been very opportunistic. What's interesting, LSU has fumbled the football 4 times and they've recovered all 4, and then opponents have fumbled twice. So LSU has created 4 turnovers on the year in 3 ball games, and a couple of those against opponents that were really all 3 of them should have been overmatched. But we'll see. But the more that I think about it and look at the numbers and talk to other people, I think this is just like Vegas suggests. This is going to be a very close ball game. This is not the LSU of old, as all of you guys know. And earlier in the week, I'm thinking, we'll probably lose by 10. I just don't know how I feel about that anymore. I mean, it's like you go back and watch LSU in that UCLA game, and granted it was the first game, they looked lost. They really did. And I thought UCLA kind of bullied LSU, and you don't expect that. Maybe it was jet lag. Maybe they just were underprepared. Maybe they expected UCLA to lay down. But UCLA got them. They did. McNeese hung in there for a while, and maybe that's a bit of a hangover game. I don't know. Maybe because Frank Wilson's there. Orgeron didn't want to run it up, but Ed needs to run it up. But again, the first half of Central Michigan, LSU, very, very efficient. And then they kind of coasted in the second half to put that game away. But they're going to come out and give us their best shot. There's no doubt about that. Those guys want blood. They want revenge. Orgeron himself wants it. He said himself he was embarrassed as a football coach and takes full responsibility for it. But he also admits they've had some busts in coverage. And he goes, we got to get that cleaned up because I know Mike Leach and Mississippi State are going to find it. Now, here's the deal. I know they would love to come in here and beat us 65-0. I just don't know if they're capable of doing that. Are they capable of beating us? Yes. But I just don't think, with their inability to run the football, despite the fact that they have made a commitment to run the football, they have not been able to do it. And it makes you a little bit one-dimensional. And you begin to think about matchups. Well, okay, Martin Emerson and Emmanuel Forbes, we're paired up against, a couple guys that are going to be pretty legit, in Butte and Smith. But if they throw it a lot, we're going to catch some of it. They're not as controlled in the passing game as suggested as perhaps that we are. Now, you got to be smart around Derek Stingley. You get loose and fast with him, it's going to be going the other direction. He'll be putting you on SportsCenter. But I do think this game is going to be very interesting because I think that Zach Arnett, I don't care what anybody says or does, I know that Arnett wants to look good against LSU. I just know that. And I know that we will bring some pressure, some exotic pressure. Now, what's interesting, too, is LSU really hadn't had a lot of sacks. They picked up some last week. And a lot of it, too, is they've kind of been banged up a little bit. Ali was out, and we'll see how things progress. I suspect, rather than kind of sit back and let us pick them apart, they're going to try to dictate terms to us. I suspect that we're going to see a lot of LSU pass rush. And we've talked before about them putting in some zone. I think it'll be a situational type thing. I think they're going to want to win on first down and kind of put us behind the chains and then drop back into zone and play some cloud coverage. So I expect them to really bring the heat early on Will Rogers. I think they're going to disguise some things. I think they're going to get in his face, and they're going to try to make him uncomfortable. I think that is exactly what's going to happen. And how we handle that pressure, I think is going to determine the ball game. If they bring the heat and have to go man and we burn them, then they'll stop doing it. And it's the same thing, when guys are in the zone, all of a sudden you can run them out of the zone, but a lot of people are kind of content to say, you know what, this is what we have to do against Mississippi State. I think there is some ego involved in this whole thing with that Orgeron. I think he was bruised last year. And if you know anything about Coach O, he's not a bend but don't break guy. This is a guy that wants to kind of break your will. He does. So I expect them to really, really, really come after us hard early in the ball game. And I think they'll try to hit a big shot early. They'll have some gadget play or trick play, try to take the game out of it and kind of get us on our heels a little bit. And it's one of those things that you begin to think about. If we can survive the first quarter, then we got a chance to win this ball game. Now, we go down 14-0 in the ball game, and all of a sudden, we're chasing the game. We're in trouble. If we go down there and score early, we take a lead in that first quarter, I think we're going to win the game. I think you got to survive. I think, again, they're going to come out filled with emotion and ready to roll. But that only sustains you for so long. At some point, you got to play football. So we have to survive that first quarter. All right, it's time for the final segment of the show, brought to you by Portico. Great people, Great people to work with. Brooks Bryan's involved with this group. It's a great group that's brought this great residential development to Starkville. I've shared with you guys many times, if I was moving to Starkville now, this is where I would move. Now, when I first moved up here, I didn't want to be in a neighborhood. Now that I've been out here in the sticks for a while, I'd kind of like to be in a neighborhood. A lot less grass to mow, right? But also, too, just being close to campus. 1.1 miles from campus. You can't beat it. And it's on the better side of campus. And what I mean by that is that's the side where things are a little quieter. You don't have, the hustle and bustle of everything right there where Blight Jack and all that come together. And there's a lot of business and commerce right there. But I would want to live there. I'd love to live out there at Portico. Again, you come off of 82 onto 12, and you take that first right on the Patch Station Road. You cross over Old West Point Road. Boom, your new home right there. So whether it's your primary residence or an investment property or your home away from home, maybe it's your ball game retreat place, a place that you can keep all your tailgating gear and not have to lug that stuff back and forth from Jackson or Tupelo or Birmingham or whatever. It's time to invest in Starkville. It's time to invest in having a place here. We'd love for you to be our neighbor. Many people have said, you know what, I may retire there. Well, this is a great opportunity for you to do so. To get more information, call Brooks Bryan. Former Diamond Dog, Brooks Bryan. I've told you guys before, guy's got a lot of good stories. He'll tell you some good baseball stuff too. And he'd probably tell you by the time we beat Washington and went to Omaha. He was a big part of that. So Brooks Bryan's phone number is 601-416-8075, 601-416-8075. Make Portico your next move. All right, today's Bulldog hero is a guy that I actually spoke to earlier this week. He will be in town this Friday for the M Club Hall of Fame Gala. If you are in town, maybe you're coming down, hey, this is a great opportunity. We got a morning game. Most of you are going to spend the night Friday night. You're like, hey, what am I going to do Friday night? Well, come to the M Club Hall of Fame Gala at the Humphrey Coliseum. You can get your tickets. Okay, you can visit that. I've written some articles, and there's a link in the bottom of those articles on Gene's page about the M Club Gala, or you can just search M Club Gala on Google and buy tickets. And we're going to induct this great class. And Bob Tyler, Coach Bob Tyler, is part of that class. I had a chance to visit with him, and every time that I have spoken to Coach, his face, his voice, his countenance, everything lights up when he talks about Mississippi State. Let me give you a little backstory, too, for those of you guys that don't know. So Bob Tyler didn't play college football. He loved football, but he didn't play college football. He was actually, a student at Ole Miss. That's what he was. And back in those days, too, there were a lot of people, that's what they did. They went to Mississippi State or they went to Ole Miss, and they began life. And I think it's interesting. He goes up there, and he wasn't one of the guys. And ultimately, that cost him. Originally from Water Valley, was a great player, and spent some time at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then went to the University of Mississippi. Of course, didn't play college football. And then basically went to work coaching high school football, and was coaching the North-South game. And got a phone call from Johnny Vaught about a quarterback by the name of Archie Manning. And Bob Tyler was kind of instrumental in saying, hey, this kid can really play. So they take him. And the rest, in many respects, is history. And then, of course, those two guys were reunited, at Ole Miss. But so when Tyler was at Ole Miss, Johnny Vaught and he kind of saw life the same way. They saw offense the same way. They saw strength and conditioning, off-season workouts kind of the same way. And so he coached the wide receivers for Johnny Vaught. But there were a lot of people, because most of Johnny Vaught's staff, were former Ole Miss players. And, at that time, too, Ole Miss playing really well. And so that really kind of kept it in the family. And there were a lot of people that kind of treated Bob Tyler as a bit of an outsider. And so when John Vaught got ready to retire, he had told people that Bob Tyler was kind of the coach in waiting, that it was his wish to allow Bob Tyler to take over the program. Well, that's not what happened. The Kennard brothers get involved, and next thing you know, I guess it was Billy Kennard became the AD, hired his brother, Bruiser Kennard, because, again, he's one of their own, right? to keep him in the family. This happens in, I guess, the following the 1970 season. Coach Vaught had gotten really sick. He actually came back later and kind of took over after the Kennard experiment failed. And Bob Tyler left and went to the University of Alabama. Now, I've been told by a couple people close to Coach that he left because he just felt like there wasn't going to be a future at Ole Miss, because he wasn't one of the guys. He didn't play football at Ole Miss and was always kind of treated as a little bit of an outsider. And with Coach Vaught gone, he needed to find something else to do. So he was fortunate enough to be on the staff at the University of Alabama in 1971 with Coach Paul Bear Bryant. Had a great year there, learned a lot, he tells me, and then he comes to Mississippi State as the offensive coordinator in 1972. Now, what's interesting about that is he basically came, we talked about the whole coach and waiting thing, at Ole Miss. When Bob Tyler came to Mississippi State, he came as with the understanding, hey, you come in and you put in your offense, and then you'll be the head coach, once Coach Shira is done. And so that was kind of the deal. And then, Coach Shira, of course, stayed on as the athletic director, but Bob Tyler was the head football coach. And that's when things really began to change for Mississippi State. Things changed in many ways. Because Bob Tyler had recruited for Ole Miss and Alabama, he kind of understood what was taking place. He kind of understood the selling points of those schools and what they were using to kind of sell against us, what the detriments of Mississippi State were. What were the things that maybe we didn't see on the inside? And Bob Tyler said he always wanted the Mississippi State job. He came in, he changed how we recruited, and as a result, changed how we played. And listen, and I've talked to several former players, in many respects, off-season conditioning for football prior to Bob Tyler was kind of optional. It's like, yeah, they did some things, but there wasn't like a comprehensive strength and conditioning program. Well, Bob Tyler changed that. He brought a lot of things that he learned at the University of Alabama to Mississippi State. And I've interviewed Howard Lewis and Rocky Falker, and Howard Lewis told me they had this pre-camp, and I think Ray Perkins is the one that implemented it at Mississippi State. And so Howard Lewis told me that that was so difficult. I mean, that was back when they had hot boxes and everything else. That he said, if I could survive that, I could survive anything in life. But he brought a real toughness to Mississippi State, not just on the recruiting trail, but on the football field. And what which is incredible too, so the very first year at Mississippi State, we tie the first game against Northeast Louisiana. Everybody's like, oh, here we go again. Well, then we just absolutely destroyed Vanderbilt in week 2, 52-21. We go to Jackson to take on number 16 Florida, and we blow them out, 33-12. We get blown out the next week by Kentucky, and then we go to Florida State, and we blow out Florida State 37-12. Then we go to Louisville, Kentucky, and blow them out at their place. So I guess we won 18-7. And then we lost out the rest of the year. We had a tie against Southern Miss, and then we lose the Egg Bowl 38-10, which is interesting. And I'm sure that kind of stuck in the craw of one Bob Tyler. When 74, we had one of the best seasons we'd had since the 1940s. You come out, you beat William and Mary, and then we go to Jackson, and we rout Georgia 38-14. We go to Gainesville, they get their revenge 29-13, and then we rattle off 4 wins in a row: Kansas State, Lamar, Memphis State, and Louisville. We lose at number 4 Alabama, and then we lose at home to number 10 Auburn 24-20. We should have won that game too. And then we beat LSU, Ole Miss, and then win the Sun Bowl, the only 4th bowl win in Mississippi State history. Bob Tyler eventually became the athletic director at Mississippi State, where he says that allowed him to kind of control the atmosphere, not just for Mississippi State football players, but student athletes across the campus. And I tweeted this out because I thought the comment was so profound. He goes, as a player, as a coach, everything you do in your daily life has to lean towards a scoreboard. Everything has got to be about winning. What am I doing today to win? What am I doing today to get better? And that's become a cliche, because sometimes it's not always physical fitness. Sometimes it's sharpening the saw. Sometimes it's learning a little bit about, your opponent. But everything you do has got to be about
making the scoreboard lean in your favor. So Bob Tyler will be inducted this weekend, and I'll be there to see it. I'm really excited to see Coach again. It has been my honor to interview these recipients of the Hall of Fame inductions. Bobby Thigpen, of course, part of that too, and Ray White. It's a great class, and we have done such a great job. So if you're going to be in town, maybe come out and check it out. It is a business casual event, so don't show up with a legalized marijuana T-shirts, cut off blue jeans and flip-flops, and expect to get in. I mean, let's show some respect to the event and to the recipients, the inductees of the M Club Hall of Fame. I'm excited to get there. I'm excited to see everybody. And again, it's one of those things too. I guess because of my love for Mississippi State and my appreciation for our history, anytime that we get a chance to hear anything from those who wore the maroon and white or those who coached here, you got to listen. You got to really perk up your ears and listen, because one day those stories are going to be gone forever. And so we need to get as much wisdom from them as we possibly can. We absolutely do. And Bob Tyler tells me that his years at Mississippi State were the greatest years of his life, and that going into the Hall of Fame was the highlight of his coaching career. And that guy has coached all over the state, and a great man. The Mississippi State Recruiting Lounge at Davis Wade Stadium is called the Bob Tyler Recruiting Lounge in his honor. That's a really cool thing. That's going to do it for today, man. Thank you guys so much for your support. Go to dogpilethebook.com today and pre-order your copies of the book. We'll have a release date soon. We'll have them out to you before Christmas. We will have them to you before Christmas. So I know many of you are thinking, I want to get this, but I'd love to be able to kind of go grab it. To make sure you get a book, you need to go through dogpilethebook.com, and all pre-orders will be signed. If you want it personalized, use the note section. Some of you are messaging me. I am not going to remember. So if you've already ordered and you didn't get it personalized, go to the Contact Us link on that website and send the note. And it's going to require a little work, but they will pair it up for you. But when you're ordering, just go through the note section and say, this is what I want the book to say. But if you just want it signed, it's going to be signed. There's no problem with that at all whatsoever. While you're there, you can get personalized copies of Flim Flam, Alpha Dogs, and Stark Villains. If you're looking for Blooms of Oleander, and some of you are, I get messages almost every day, it seems, people looking for it. You can find that at Amazon, Books A Million, BarnesandNoble.com. Personalized copies available through Book Mart and Cafe here in Starkville. Lemuria Books has it, Turnrow Books in Greenwood. Any great bookstore across this great land of ours can get Blooms of Oleander for you. Just tell them, do you want to order Blooms of Oleander by Steve Robertson, and they can handle it for you. Again, thanks so much for your support all these many years. If you're not a subscriber to genespage.com, you should be. Come check us out. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Susan, it's so great to finally be able to get together again.
Oh, it sure is. And I really appreciate you picking up the bill.
I'm happy to. I've got the extra cash. Since we've all been driving so much more again, I've been using Get Upside, the free gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon. Cash back every time I buy gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code PHIL for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your next fill-up. You can cash out anytime to PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code PHIL for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PHIL.